Okay, so I wanted to bring in one of my little meanies here. She's in a bad mood now because she was just fighting with her sister. But this is my pretty much everyday life, and she's got hiccups at the moment. This is Amber. Say hello. And she's here because Daddy's working from home now. Daddy's in his dressing gown. Daddy's doing everything that he needs to make sure that these two little girls are protected and don't get sick because of the whole COVID virus thing at this moment in time. They're the reason Daddy's so strong in his belief that we need to social distance, that we need to protect each other, that, ow, and now right in the eye. She didn't mean to do that. It's all part of the joy of this whole process. But I'm here to protect these two little girls. I social distance, I work from home, I follow the rules, I wear a mask outside because if they were to get the virus, then clearly it would be very, very bad at their age with the immune system as they have it and everything that we're seeing. So they're here, and bless their heart, we're now in day, what is it? It's day 30 of the lockdown here in Spain. And they're away. Bye. So my little stars have left, and they haven't been outside since the lockdown began. Daddy and Mummy go outside to shop when necessary, but obviously the girls don't. But this is just I usually keep them out of the videos because I don't want to be seen to be using them for cuteness value. But it's an important message, I think. And it's also showing my regular, everyday life that I'm now living with here under the virus. Here I am, unshaven. My hair's getting longer. I'm wearing a dressing gown. I'm looking perhaps a little paler and more raggedy than I normally would. But that's the reality of this, isn't it? That's the reality we're currently living in. Bed's a bit of a mess. I apologise. The girls were jumping all over it before I started the video. And I will not show you the floor. There's toys and clothes and slippers and shoes everywhere. But you know how it is. But, thank you, sweetheart. And as you can see, the girls do speak mostly Spanish because their mum is Dominican. So they spent more time at home with her while I was at work. So they predominantly picked up their mother tongue as they went along. But as I was saying, the whole point of leaving the door open and let my family come and go is that it's become that way with my regular working life. I'm working for a company where thankfully I can work from home. It's all been sorted out. And I'm predominantly answering live chats and emails as part of my work. What do you want? Yeah. Take it to mum. And pretty much I can leave my door open a lot of the time and let the girls come and go because I'm not speaking to people directly live. They can hear them, so the girls can come and go. And it's except if they start fighting or loudly playing, I'm sat with my headphones on, listening to my music, answering emails, answering chats, and also talking to and supporting my colleagues. It's far from ideal, but we're doing it. And I know at the moment, at this stage in time, we're probably getting a little bit of, shall we say, lockdown fatigue, seeing it's been going on now for 4 weeks, perhaps longer for some. I had a friend a work colleague, who went to work. He went on holiday to Thailand at the end of February, and right when the whole, right when the whole thing actually started, and unfortunately got held on his way back from the Far East into quarantine for 2 weeks. Had to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks with his girlfriend, and then be immediately put into quarantine as soon as the lockdown happened in Gibraltar, and stay there. Okay. And so he's been in quarantine 3 weeks longer than I have. So what can we do? We can complain and we can whinge, we can whine, we can say how bad it is, but at the end of the day, look at these two here. They're strong, they're healthy, and they're happy because their mum and their dad are sticking to the social distance and the quarantine regulations. If their mum and their dad weren't sticking to the quarantine regulations, we could be sitting these girls around a completely different bed and in less happy circumstances. And that's important. These two girls are my reason for sticking to the regulation because I can get sick. Amber, we don't need singing right now. Amber, go and sing outside. Amber, go and sing outside. You can sing to the bottle of lemonade outside if you want to. But these two are my reason for sticking to the quarantine, to sticking to everything and making sure they stay well because I can get sick. I could suffer fatal consequences from getting sick, and it's just me. But then when you've got these two to worry about, I have to protect them and make sure they stay well. And that's the main reason that makes me able to deal with everything. Because thankfully, but let me just pause it for a moment because they're liking to sing now. This is not a child's talent show, so just a moment, please. Okay, so I didn't want to leave, but that's okay. Because Amber, stop buggering around, please. Stop it. Stop making noise. Daddy's trying to talk. What? Go and ask them to give you some juice. So let me just pause. I'm going to get the girls some juice. Just a minute. All right, I'm back, and the girls have got their milk, and they've left more toys lying around. But yeah, that's the vital important thing because at this moment in time, everyone's suffering from what we'll call isolation fatigue. That it's dragging on, it's getting a little boring. We're getting a little anxious, we're getting a little antsy. Me personally, I'm used to cycling 6 miles a day, 5 or 6 miles a day, and I'm cycling no miles a day because my bike it would dirty up the house if I brought it, and I haven't really got a way to ride it around the house, and I haven't figured out a way to actually build a frame to keep the back wheel raised above the ground so that I can use it as if it were an exercise bike. But there are ways and means. Like I said, I stick to the whole thing of quarantine, and I will stay in quarantine and stay under lockdown for as long as I have to make sure those two girls are safe. Because, like I said, if I catch the coronavirus, it's a good chance of me being strong and healthy that I'll get a minor dose and I'll get over it. There's a chance because there's been people my age and inside of my sort of demographic who have not been so fortunate. But that's just me. There are ways of people continuing on and getting on were I not to be here. But at the same time, I've also got the responsibilities to my family. I've got not only my two lovely daughters that you saw, but the sons that my wife had before we met, who are unfortunate at the moment in the Dominican Republic and cannot leave. So you see how things are, to whom I have a responsibility as well. So me continuing to work and keeping my work going is of vital importance at the moment. It's fortunate that I can actually work from home. I mostly just am answering emails from customers and dealing with live chats on a daily basis, so I can sit there with my headphones, listen to my music, and get on my work for 11 hours a day. There are many who can't do that, and unfortunately, as my company is quite forward-looking and proactive, I was able to get made permanent. I was on a 4-month probation before that, and I got made permanent last week, which is also quite a blessing as well, because it means I can continue to do what I have already been doing. And the company is quite supportive and said we'll be working from home as long as we need to for the several more weeks of lockdown that are currently being anticipated. And I know there are many who are less fortunate, many who have mental health and other issues that are making the lockdown more difficult, many who have no work to do, many who have anxieties and difficulties about members of their family and other people and not being able to go out. There are those introverted people who are loving every second of doing what they did anyway, but just actually it being made much easier than it normally is. There's all kinds. As people say, the infinity of the human is as infinite as the imagination, and sometimes even more infinite than that. There are so many different kinds of us here, there, and everywhere. My two daughters, for example, who you saw, look very alike. but could be no less alike in personality. Amber, the one in the yellow, is quite chilled, quite naughty in a very well thought out way, and also good at playing the girly innocent. Whereas Anaya, her sister, is much more rambunctious in her manner, much more forward and direct, and much more combative. As we said, Amber's like me, and Anaya's like her mum. But we shall see. There will be disagreements on that, I'm sure, and many people may not agree with me. But we're managing here, you see. We're fortunate that we're going through this time. We're going through this difficulty in a time when technology is more readily available, because the technology that enables me to work from home. Kitchen, talk to mum. And these are the joys as well, that I'm now getting more demands for milk. So just a minute, please, before I lose my flow. Okay, so it's milk there. It's the joys of being a parent. I cannot complain. We get plenty more joys out of them, even during these times, than we get difficulties. Okay, sometimes when I'm in the middle of a team meeting and they're shouting and screaming and knocking at the door, I do lose my patience somewhat. I may raise my voice at them, which they heartily object to. But they're the ones who are keeping us sane through all of this, honest to God. One, because I remember every time I look at them why I'm doing this, why I'm dealing with it, why I'm taking it, and why I'm accepting the changes to how things are. Because even the most adaptable of us is challenged by the way things are now. But every time I look at those two girls and remember to be careful for their part, I look at this. We've got our little routine that we do take turns going out for the shopping. Thankfully, we've got shops nearby that are well stocked. We've got a little routine. When one of us leaves, we'll hang a plastic bag up on the door. The girls don't go and bother the door. So whenever one of us leaves the shop, we'll have a plastic bag by the door. Once we come in, we'll take off our shoes and put them inside of that bag, and as well as our outer clothes. The girls will be sealed in the bedroom, and we will then, having put our outer clothes in the bag, take them onto the balcony and leave them there in the bag. Come in and put the washing away, the shopping away, and then have a good wash up. And then put our indoor clothes on, which are in the bedroom. The girls can then come out once mommy or daddy is clean. But that's because we don't honestly know exactly how this virus is transmitted, how long it can survive in certain places. And I may be accused of being paranoid, may be accused of fake newsing and so forth by some conservative viewers who don't watch this channel. Yeah, I know what I did there. But as a parent, and I'm sure other parents will agree with me, whether you be parents of a human child or of a four-legged child, as a parent, the health of that little life with whose well-being we have been charged is of paramount importance. And if one has to be a little paranoid, if one has to be a little over careful, if one has to pay more attention than one normally would, one does. And to me, the health and well-being of those two little girls is more important than anything else in the world. Obviously, as a married man as well, the health of my wife is also of vital importance. But we're adults. We know what we're dealing with. Those two little girls don't. They get ill. They don't know why. They don't know what it is. They just know that they feel grotty. And my single most terrifying thought as a parent is having to take one of those little girls to hospital and have them hooked up to a machine that will allow them to breathe, and either they will get better or they will not. I've had nightmares about it. I've had terrible dreams about it. I've had sudden heart-stopping thoughts about it every time I watch the TV news. So doing everything I can to ensure that does not happen is worthwhile, in my opinion, as inconvenient as it might be. Having to work from home, having to deal with the change to routines and circumstances of my office being right here where I'm sat right now. Yeah, this is exactly how I work on a daily basis, sometimes with, sometimes without. Exactly, sometimes shaven, sometimes not. I'm not going for the quarantine beard. Well, my wife doesn't like beards. So, really, I've been married for long enough to know that if your wife doesn't like a beard, don't try and convince her that a beard is a good thing. Besides, I don't like beards. I have this weird thing. I have reached this stage in life, you see, where this part and around here and bits around it start to, shall we say, display the shades of winter. And as you may see, I don't always look my 45 years. I may do at the moment for lack of sleep. But with this fella on, I most certainly do it. Beard adds about 10 years to me, as does those of you who remember that far back, as does the missing long hair, even though the hair is coming back in a bit more profusion than it was. What can I do about that? I could let my wife cut my hair, but she doesn't seem to want to, so I'm not gonna push the issue. But as I was saying, there have been a lot of changes come along. A lot of changes. My office is now my bedroom, because it's the only place I can position my setup. I've got off to the side here. I've got another screen that I use to have my remote, my remote desktop for my work on that side, and I use the other things on this one. My office is my bedroom. I get up in the morning, I go to the kitchen, I make coffee, I wash, I breakfast and everything, and I come back into the bedroom. Sometimes, often the girls are still asleep when I start work, so I have to be quiet. And I sit here for, obviously taking my breaks into account, which I'm still entitled to and still get, for 10 hours a day on the days that I work, 4 days out of 7. So 4 days of the week, I am sat here for 10 hours a day working with some breaks. Hardly convenient. When I was in the office, I was sat in rather expensive, rather nicely designed chairs that my employer had provided. It was a little more comfortable. I had people to chat to in quiet times. The day went by quicker. At the moment, I'm sat here listening to music, chopping on through my workload, occasionally chatting to other members of my team through Microsoft Teams, and getting on with it. Then, of course, I finish my work and I go to the living room or the lounge or the salon or whatever you choose to call it, the front room. Whatever you'd like to say, front room for my good northern friends, and Graham, if you're watching, you know what I'm talking about, which is actually at the back of the house, but no, it doesn't really matter. So, and then I spend a few hours in there, eating, take a shower before bed, and come back in here to sleep. And on some rare occasions, I will venture outside. I am now a hunter-gatherer. I will venture outside in search of food, carrying reusable shopping bags with me that have been suitably decontaminated, and return with them filled with the bounty I found foraging around the local supermarket known as Mercadona, and struggle back under the weight of. Or sometimes my wife will do that, but yeah, it's hardly ideal circumstances for anybody. Now I worry about my parents. I was having a chat to Laurie about this the other day, and we're both the same thing. His parents, unfortunately, he's in LA and his parents are over in the UK. His parents are further away. Excuse me. I'm not dying from coronavirus. I'm dying from too much vaping. Got that sort of vape, the dry vapors throat. You know what I'm talking about, you vapors. I need to drink more water. And yeah, his parents are over in the UK. Just the same with with Graham's parents are up in Scotland, or in the UK as well, and it's a worrying time. Thankfully Laurie managed to get his parents or his dad back to England before all this happened, and the airlines were all shut down. Oh, you hear my little pair of monkeys are making their monkey noises. I like to hear that. We'll come back to this in a minute. But I worry about my parents. I'm fortunate my parents are within Spain as well. They're up in the mountains in a place called Valdepeñas, which is famous for wine and olive oil. It's basically one whole big olive grove up there. They're safe up in that village. They're well looked after. They have plenty of people looking out for them. Their neighbours are always looking out for them. And things are fairly tightly controlled. They have everything they need within a 5-minute walking distance. And they wander out most days to do their shopping, or at least my dad does, because he's of the old school of being man go get food, man wander out, wife stay home. But among many things me and my dad disagree on, I respect him for that. Fair enough. He's old fashioned, God bless him, and he's not going to change. But I worry about them all the same because they're in the high risk category, just like Laurie's parents are, just like Graham's parents are, and just like many of you whose names I do not currently know. You may have lost somebody to the virus. You may have someone in hospital currently over the virus. You may have someone whose status you are unaware of. These are challenging times, and I am so grateful in a way that we live in a world now where communication, the ability to work, the ability to stay in touch, the ability to check up on, the ability to be a global village as we are now is possible. The ability to communicate with you people like this is possible. And we're so fortunate in that. I can, and I will be later on this evening, give my parents a quick bell on Skype because, as you know, Facebook said no to your good self. I have been, what would you call it? I've been exiled as such. Yeah, I suppose I've been exiled from Facebook. Banished. I have been banished from Facebook, as you are well aware. I hold that honour, which I wear as a badge of pride. Well, I get the badge of pride, but the only thing is it's considered. This is what I get on a daily basis. It's not considered vital, so it's been held up in the mail. Amber Naya, please don't squeak your minis at me, please. Now that is not a euphemism. You can just make out the trademark name anthropomorphic rodent in Amber's hand there, of a female persuasion apparently, who is her favourite toy in the whole world. This is pretty much what I get on a daily basis when I'm working, and I sort of, if I'm pretty much buried in the email wall, will drown out their noise with my headphones while listening to music. But obviously I can't do that right now because you wouldn't hear a word I say. Amber, please. Amber now. Oh, Nanaya has little monkey in a dress. Amber, please. Please. That is talking. That is talking. Take me and Minnie and monkey tonight. Look. I'm Minnie's dad as well, apparently. According to Amber, I'm also Minnie's dad. Say hello to the fans. Oh, she's away. Okay. I forgot what I was saying. Oh no, she's brought Minnie back again, so it doesn't matter. Say hello to the fans, Amber. Yeah, the girls speak Spanish because they were raised mostly by the mum while I've been at work. And look, showing Minnie's burnt drawers and her tail. They're lovely shoes as well, aren't they, Amber? But you see, the girls are bilingual because they understand English, they just don't speak it much. Alright, off you go. How do you see? Anaya, say hi to the fans. Say hi to Daddy's fans. Oh, you've got a hand now. There you go. Is that better? Thank you, sweetheart. We can't let the witches get that. Old traditions. What? That's my knee, isn't it? It is. See, I'm having a discussion with an IRL. I forgot what I was talking about. I know, what was Daddy talking about? That's my leg, it is. My knee. Honestly, I forgot what I was talking about during that off-screen discussion with my daughters. Say hello to the fans, Anaya. Say hi. Blow them a kiss, go on. See, there's Monkey in a dress, and that was Monkey's voice. Anyway, excuse me, please. Daddy was talking. Thank you, sweetheart. So, Amber, Daddy is talking, please. Anaya, Daddy's talking, please. So I honestly forgot what I was talking about. No, well, the fact that we can converse with people, that we can stay in touch, that we can know how people are doing, and we can not only know by form of things like phone calls and letters as we had them before, but see by video link is so useful. It really is. And I will be getting going soon. I'll wind this one down. I won't have it at the normal length. I often have these videos because Amber and I bugger off because Daddy's trying to talk. Go on. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. Come on, sweet. Come on. Take her milk and off you go. All right, well, take what you need and please let Daddy speak. Please. Sometimes I get a bit too rambunctious, but no. As I was saying, thankfully we do have the technology and the ability these days. I had to close the door because they wanted to place a screeching contest, and obviously, as entertaining as that video would be, you wouldn't be able to hear me speak. And apparently, you come to this channel to listen to me speak. I don't know for the life of me. But thankfully, I mean, we have this technology which allows us not only to hear how someone is doing, but also to see whether they're lying to us or not, which is very, very handy. And I'm thankful that I have that ability to see my parents are fine, to see that my sister and my nephews are fine, aunts, uncles, everybody. Obviously, I can't use Facebook Messenger like I did, as I said, because I was banished from that realm quite abruptly. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg. I appreciate you, man. I also have many, many ways to reach out to people, to share my experiences, to share what I believe to be the most accurate information we can have on this outbreak, and to help encourage people, for the same reasons as I, to observe the quarantine, to listen to our scientists and to our doctors and to our medical staff who know what they're talking about. Because I've always said, I will seen it this way. If I'm having trouble with my car, I do not take my car to a carpenter or to a horticulturalist. I take it to a mechanic, because funnily enough, a mechanic is more likely to be familiar with the inner workings of the engine of my car. I would expect, otherwise I'll take it to another mechanic and not give that one any money. When we're dealing with a disease, with a virus, with an infectious agent, I personally believe doctors are the folk we should listen to, and scientists who specialize in that field. Not stuffed suits of either party or affiliation, not business people, not talking heads on the television, not stuffed suits or pantsuits or skirt suits or dresses of any variety, but the people out there on the front lines. You may have seen on my Twitter feed and on my Instagram that I made an effort the other night to share one of the famous 8 o'clock cheers that they do here in Spain. Something I feel very strongly about. And as people may see, my daughters enjoy it as well. They greatly enjoy it. 8 o'clock comes, We have a few people whose watches are set a minute or two early, who start clapping. As soon as the girls hear that, doesn't matter what they're doing, they will drop it and they will run to the window, they will run to the patio doors, and they'll join in. And I believe we should do that wherever we are, because there are people out there. So I need to shave and my top lip is itchy. Sorry about that. These people out there are doctors, are nurses, are hospital cleaners, are hospital porters, everybody in the medical profession, and not just them as well. We have our shop workers, our shopkeepers, our delivery drivers, our warehousing staff, our street cleaners. Everybody is out there on the front lines, but the doctors are on the front lines working with the people who are suffering from the disease and putting themselves at risk of contracting it. And we've lost several medical staff that way. But they continue every day to go to work. We have at 8 o'clock where we have a medical professional or two who live on our street. So the applause are a little more personal in that respect. But we do it anyway. And there are people will cheer, they will pause for someone to play a clarinet solo to remember those who have been less fortunate than us. So we have a minute's silence while that person plays a sad clarinet song, and then we continue when the clarinet song ends. And to me, that's so important, and it's something that is shockingly beautiful that has come from all of this, that unity. And I really believe we should try and organize something for all of us together from one end of the world to the other to work out a way that we can all get together and thank our medical professionals as one voice, or one silence, or one round of applause from one end of the world to the other. Because these are the people we should listen to, these are the people we should thank. I've said it, and many other people have said it too. We're learning who the truly vital and important and valuable people in our society are because of this. Those of us who are staying at home, we're not vital really, we do jobs, but we rely upon these people not only to make our stay at home worthwhile, but also to make it possible. We rely on the shop workers, we rely on the delivery drivers, the warehousing people, the people who pick our fruit and prepare our food to make it possible that we can continue our isolation. And we rely on our doctors, on our scientists to make it worthwhile. And of course, we have our politicians and our stuffed clothing of various types people to support us in that. And I know some of you out there, you're not receiving the kind of support that you could. Far from it. And to me, that is shameful, because that is what those people were voted into those positions to do. We've come too much in this world where politicians have forgotten what they are. They are public servants, meaning they are in that position to be of service to the people that put them there. That's what we pay them wages for. That's what we give them position and power and salary, so that they can do what we as individuals cannot. Not for them to be sponsored by giant corporations and interest groups and PACs and FACs and NECs and WACs, but for them to represent our interests and to work towards our benefit. As a famous Australian in a mask, or was he in New Zealand, I don't remember, said people should not be afraid of the government should be afraid of the people, because it is the people that keeps them where they are. Damn right. But now we're in a world where we are afraid of our government. And why? They are a small number of people who we, by getting up, if it's possible, by getting out by putting a tick or a cross in a box, can remove from that position in seconds. It's not hard. You may say, oh, but this, oh, but that. No. Certain politicians won certain elections because a certain many thousands of people did not get up off of their behinds and do that. A certain policy which gained popularity in a certain country from where my accent originates because not enough people who opposed it in that most important of fashions, which was called voting. Simple. We can complain on Twitter, we can complain on Instagram, we can complain on Facebook, any social media network you care to name. But if we don't get up and vote to back up that complaining nature, we have got zero right to complain about anything. There are those of you at the moment who are complaining about a certain elder statesman not being the nominee for his party. How many of you got up and voted for him? Right. You can complain. The rest of you, bugger off. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, politics aside, because I'm talking politics in general here, I'm not really showing shall we say, a bias, even though you know I have one. I'm showing more of a bias towards the policies, the process of politics itself. But I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what you vote for. I don't care what your beliefs are, but be honest about them and represent them. But coming back to how things are, and I may bring it back to writing, I may not. I'd just like to sum up here now. So obviously we're in our 4th week of isolation. We're all going crazy. If we weren't crazy to begin with, which I definitely was. We're dealing with things in a different way. As I said, I would much rather hear my daughters laughing and screaming and enjoying themselves outside in the hallway, because that way I know they're healthy. And any parent will understand me when I say that. If your children are laughing and screaming or even fighting, at least they're healthy, because when they're sick, they're quiet. And I'd rather they're angry and fighting and enjoying themselves, because that way I know they're well and I feel better. And I know that I am doing my job as a father, as a parent, correctly. Oh, it's a salt lamp, if you're wondering what that is. That thing next to the yellow bedspread. It does look a bit weird. I was just looking at it out the corner of my eye right now, and I can see it looks weird. It is a salt lamp, I promise you. They're lovely. But and these are assorted children's toys. But we're doing this for a reason. We've all got different reasons. But we need, please listen to me. We need to keep doing it until it's safe not to. Until the people who know what they're talking about tell us it is safe not to. I'm going crazy. I have an anxiety to go outside at times. I have a boredom fall upon me. I should really be spending more of it writing, I admit, when that happens, but you may have noticed my art of the storyteller is involving very little in the way of telling stories. Well, I'm telling stories, as it were, but I'm not talking about how one makes stories as I previously did. But these are special times, and I believe my platform, such as it is, should be used to convey what I consider to be important messages. I will be coming back to my more traditional, I suppose, approach, my more regular blogging and so forth. But as you can see, times have changed. Times are different. Everything, and I don't think, as other people have observed, I don't think things are ever going to go back to the way they were before, because too much has actually changed. We have, as it were, been illuminated. We've seen the light. We've seen a difference that wasn't there before. And, you know, it's not going to go back to the way it was. Though we have seen changes in ourselves, we've realized differences. We've seen society in a new light. We have seen ourselves in a new light. I've learned things about myself during this time. I've learned things about the people around me. I've learned things about what is important. I've learned that in spite of me being here working 10 hours a day, 4 days out of 7, I'm able to spend more time with my family and more quality time. Not only with my daughters, but also with my wife, because I can. I've realized that's important. Prior to this, when I was working before, I was cycling to and from work. I was working the same sort of shift pattern and everything, doing the similar kind of job. But I was coming from home a lot more tired and dedicating less time. I was tired, I was stressed, I was impatient. Funny enough, under these circumstances, I seem less impatient and less stressed because I am thankful for so many things that I have. I'm thankful for having a paying job when so many don't. I am thankful for being able to do that job from the safety of my home and therefore ensure the health of my wife and my children. I'm thankful to be able to protect and look after my wife and my children. I'm thankful to be able to be in my home and know that my family are well, and know that these things too will pass, and I will, because of that, I will tolerate as long a lockdown as the science and medical community think is necessary in order to ensure that continues. Because never in my life do I want to be in that place where I am looking down at one or, God forbid, both of my daughters fighting for their lives on a medical bed. Never in my life. And I will do everything I can, as passive as this method is, to ensure that happens. And it's, if you want to go into the storytelling thing as we wind up here, there you go. This is what we can tell our grandchildren 2 generations from now, or 1 generation from now. Oh, what did you do, Granddad, during the COVID crisis of 2020? I sit down, my grandson, because that's exactly what Granddad sat on his ass and did as little as he could get away with. And that showed that bloody virus. Gave it a bit of British buttock, that's what we did. It's the truth. And if our grandparents could go to a foreign country badly equipped with a gun and a uniform and a hat and have bullets fired at them and fire bullets back, we can sit on our goddamn asses and fight the virus like that. Compared to that, putting a mask on when you go out is bloody nothing, is it? So you see, there was a point. As our perceptions, as our ways of looking at things are changing, so I think we may be maturing and learning as writers, and our writing itself, we may find, might experience a few changes as well. And with that thought, I shall leave you. And thank you, as always, for watching, for supporting me, and for enjoying these videos. I hope you enjoyed meeting my daughters. They are doing fine, and long may they continue to do so. And may you, your family, your loved ones, anyone you give more than a slight stuff about, be doing well and healthy and be kept safe as well. And you, all of you, stay safe and keep creating as much as you can. Don't worry if you're not creating much right now. Don't worry if all you're creating is just up here. Keep doing what you can. And that's all that matters. Don't feel guilty if you're not producing a lot. Just look at me. I used to blog every day, and now look at me. I'm doing a video blog once every week or so. We're all adapting to this. Do what you can. And that's all you can ask of yourself. And I'm not asking anything of you, because I would be a little bit hypocritical if I was telling you to work harder at your creative processes if I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, take care, stay safe, see you next time. And thank you. This is Alan Fisher signing out of The Art of the Storyteller for this time.